All right, in this video, I want to talk about a lot of things when it comes to bass fishing. Now, specifically in this video, we're going to talk about Texas rig fishing, but I'm going to do it in a little bit different way. I had a comment the other day on this channel that basically said like, hey, dude, I'm not here for the stories. And look, to be honest with you, I think that a lot of people actually learn better by listening to stories. I think it is, if you can't personally show it, I think it's one of the best ways for someone to help visualize something. And so honestly, I'm going right at that guy and I'm going to tell a big story in this video. Like, I think that is the way that I have best learned over the years. And in this video, I'm actually going to tell you about my first time fishing the Bassmaster Open on the boater side. I know that a lot of you guys are not tournament anglers. It seems like about half of you guys are. The thing about a tournament though, it really forces you to act quickly out there on the water. And a lot of times that just helps you to, at times, really understand bass a little bit better. Now, I am in no way saying that tournament anglers are always better anglers than, for example, just a recreational angler, but it does force you to make adjustments, which I think can really help your learning curve a lot out there in the water. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a lot of little things. Honestly, I'm just going to tell the story of what happened to me during this tournament. And I know that there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 different things that I really want to talk about that I think can help you guys a lot when you're out there on the water. So before we get into all this, it may be a little bit longer video. I'm really not sure. But before we get into all this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. Right now over at Fin Fishing, I am running a 20% off everything sale. So including one of my most popular products, the USA made sun shirt, one of the only ones made here in the States. I have 11 different colors. I have a lot of different products. Oh, and by the way, I know that I ran out of a lot of different sizes of the duck pants, this new product that I just got in. I have a shipment that is supposed to be here next week of these pants. And so I will get them back up on the website here hopefully soon. I just want to let you guys know that. Also, for every dollar spent right now, from now until the very end of the year, you get an entry into this contest. I'm giving away 10 different prizes, a couple of fishing reels, glide baits, a Humminbird Solix 12 unit, a fishing trip with myself. So anyways, thank you to all of you guys who have shopped at Fin Fishing. It is greatly appreciated. It is the best way to help support this channel. All right, let's talk a little bit about this tournament. Let's talk a little bit about Texas rigs. We're going to talk a little bit about everything in this video. And honestly, I don't have a pure structure. I'm going to just kind of talk to you about just some of the big things that I learned. Now going into this particular tournament, this was back in 2015, and I had never fished the Bassmaster Opens on the boater side. I'd fished them a couple of years on the co-angler side, which I really liked that, and I really enjoyed, and I learned in 2 years, in 6 tournaments in those 2 years, like I learned a lot about bass fishing just from those. And I should probably go through those experiences as well. But in this particular tournament, I'll never forget a couple of big lessons that I learned. Now, one of the first things that I learned is that it is really good for anglers in general, whether you are a tournament fisherman or not, to just get off to a good start. And what I mean by that is that, you know, a long time ago, I heard Jason Christie, another tournament angler, who's one of the best tournament anglers there are, said that sometimes he likes to start off his day with a couple of free throws before he goes and starts shooting 3-pointers. And I have found that personally, I am very much the same way. Sometimes going out there and going to areas where you may not catch the biggest bass, but you are simply going to get a lot of bites is really key to just kind of giving yourself a little bit of momentum. And I think that whether you are fishing a tournament or not, this is a really big deal. Now, during the practice period of this particular tournament, I had found one of these areas where I didn't catch any quality fish, like anything over really about 3 pounds in this tournament or in the practice, but I knew that I could go there and get bit. Like I was fishing with my uncle in practice, and over the course of like an hour time frame, we probably had like 8 or 9 bites in this one area, set the hook on like 3 or 4 fish to check size, and then we just kind of started shaking fish off. So anyways, I ran to this area first thing of the tournament morning. I ran right there, and sure enough, within about a 2-hour time frame, I had a limit for about 7.5 pounds, which in Florida is not going to do you any good at all. But I cannot tell you how settled I felt after catching that limit. Like, it just brought a lot of peace to me. And I think that as a fisherman, just like any other sport out there, sometimes just simply getting in the rhythm is a humongous deal when it comes to all this. And I was actually in this particular tournament, the way that I caught the limit was flipping and pitching a tube. You guys know that I love to flip and pitch a tube. It is one of my favorite baits to do it, and that's what I primarily use. I was fishing buggy whips, which are just a, like a reed down there in Florida, and they were fairly sparse. I didn't have to use that heavy a weight. I think I was using a 3/8 ounce weight, flipping and pitching. And so the other thing about that particular spot is that it was in Lake Toho, and I actually had a couple of other areas, including in Lake Cypress and in Lake Kissimmee. This particular chain of lakes has 4 different lakes. And on this day, I went into Toho. I actually was able to, while I was sitting there catching a limit of fish, it allowed the lock to clear. So going into every single one of these lakes, let me rephrase that. Going from Toho to the other lakes, there is one lock that holds about 12 boats. And if you guys follow tournament fishing, there's been a lot of fights that have happened in this lock before. Because if you want to get into the other lakes, you have to go through this lock. And if you have 200 boats in a tournament, you're going to have a lot of guys that go right there, and you have to wait. So, side note, I really felt like I did myself a lot of good in that particular day, because instead of going to the lock and waiting for over an hour, I was fishing, and I was able to get that 5 fish limit, have it off my back. And then when I went to the lock, I hardly had to wait at all. As a matter of fact, I went right into the lock. I think I had to wait for it to open up for me. I went right in, and I went on down to Lake Cypress. Now, when I got into Lake Cypress, again, I had a couple of patches of reeds where I was flipping and pitching. And I ended up catching a couple of good fish, including a 7-pound, 5-ounce bass, which was the first 7-pounder that I had ever caught. Not ever caught. I take that back. It was in a magnitude of that tournament, though. That was the first really big fish that I ever caught. Look, I'm from Ohio. We're not catching 7-pounders a whole lot up here. But I caught that fish, put it in the boat, and I remember really feeling good. And anyways, after I fished through that area, another big lesson that I learned on this particular day is that when something is happening right in an area, which was that particular area, take advantage of it. Go ahead and take advantage of it, because I went one pass through this little area, and I caught like a 3-pounder. I caught a couple of really quality fish. My Collingwood caught a pretty big one, like a 4 or 5-pounder, and then I caught that 7. And I basically, in my opinion, I was trying to get down to Lake Kissimmee, because there was a place over there where I felt like I had the best chance of catching a really big fish. And one of the things in bass fishing that we always think is that the grass is always greener. Like, we always think the next spot is going to have them. But when it is happening in a particular spot, like I went through that zone, and I to this day, I still wish I would have just went right back and kept going back and forth. Like, as long as those fish kept biting, I should have just kept on going around in that particular area, or even expanded in that area, because there was a couple of grass clump type areas that were close by where I had got bit in, not necessarily big fish, but I got bit in, and I probably should have just stayed in that lake the whole day and just expanded. I feel like that would have led to me actually having a better day that day, and maybe finding more fish for the second day. Now, what ended up happening is, to end the day, I went all the way down to Kissimmee. And so I had to go through Lake Hatchinahaw and then into Kissimmee. And I went to that lake, and I got into an area which I thought was like my area to catch big ones. And what it was matted vegetation. There was a bunch of chopped up grass mats, as well as, why can't I think of the name of the plant right now that's down there? Sorry, it's slipping my mind. But anyways, a bunch of grass mats down there. And I started flipping and pitching the grass mats. And the one thing that I learned in this particular derby, really from the practice and into the tournament, and this is kind of the big tip of the day, is that when it comes to flipping and pitching matted vegetation, the worst thing that you can do is set the hook too hard, or set the hook with slack in your line. By far, the worst thing that you can do is drop a little bit of slack in your line and then set the hook hard. And honestly, I had to learn this the very hard way. Like during practice is where I really learned this. There was a couple of fish that were in that general area that I lost like 3 or 4 fish before hooking one, and it was well over 4 pounds. And I realized like I started to remember and listen to the things that I'd heard about guys like Greg Hackney talking about flipping and pitching matted vegetation and how it's a pole hook set. And honestly, if you've never experienced that bite, it can be hard because a lot of times when you have like a 1.5 ounce weight and you flip it into a mat, it goes through that mat. And as soon as it goes through that mat, because you're using braid, a fairly stiff rod, a big weight, dude, when a fish hits it, it is like at times you will feel a jolt go through your line. And when you feel that thump, it is so easy for us to, just wax them. And the thing about it, when you are flipping and pitching, you do not want to do that. Like you do not want to do that at all, because what happens a lot of times if you slackline a fish with a big weight is it pops their mouth open. It allows that hook to slip out very quickly, or it's just going to barely skin hook them. And a lot of times if it barely skin hooks them, they'll get stuck in that mat. You're sitting there wrenching on that fish and he ends up either just pulling off or coming off. You lose that fish. The very best thing you can do when that fish nails it, punk, you just kind of let him pull you down. And it's a quick, not hard, but it's a quick set back and you got him. You got him. And that is something that is so important when flipping a big weight. And I'm telling you what, the second day of this tournament, which I'm about to talk about, I wish I would have remembered that, because I went down to end the first day. I missed one fish because I set the hook hard, and then I ended up having a good hook set on a fish, got him in the boat, and it barely upgraded me. I ended up having like just under 15 pounds that day. I believe I was in 14th place. Out of 200 and something anglers, I was in 14th place, which in my opinion, they pay the top 40 in Bassmaster Opens, or at least they used to back in the day. And I'm like, I honestly was feeling really good about the day. Like I was like, man, that day could have gone better. And yet I'm still in 14th place. I have a shot of making the top 12, which is what you wanted to do in these Bassmaster Opens. So going into the second day, I'm about to tell you about a couple other big lessons I learned. Going into the second day, my game plan was actually almost the exact same. I was going to go to that spot in Lake Toho, flip the reeds around that area, try to get a limit before I went down. And my plan was to actually go into Kissimmee first, because I still felt like that was my area to go out there and catch a giant. The one that I'd lost the day before, I felt like it was a giant. And so anyways, what I ended up doing is I ran to that spot in Toho, and this was the other big lesson that I learned. I went to that same couple of patch of buggy whips, and I attacked them in the exact same way. I picked up my black and blue tube. I started flipping and pitching it. I went around the places just the exact same, because I had had a good amount of bites the day before. Like in that 2-hour time frame, I probably had like 9 bites. Again, they weren't big ones, but it was something that I knew would settle me. And I had like 9 bites, and I went through it. And guess what? I went through that exact like same situation, and I only got 1 bite in there. And so automatically my brain was starting to like just go. But the thing is it wasn't necessarily because I went through that area and there wasn't a lot more fish there. The thing is I was attacking the exact same fish in the exact same way. And this is another huge lesson that I've learned over the years, is that when you try to go and duplicate something in the same area, simply going from a different angle can be really, really big. Like going from a different angle, you are visually going to see different targets, and it's going to allow you to put that bait in different areas. If you go the exact same way, I was probably flipping on some of the exact same areas where I'd caught fish the day before, and those fish I had caught and they were gone. Maybe they went right back. The ones that I called, or the ones that, I end up throwing back, they probably went right back there, but they probably remembered that tube from being caught the day before. Now, on the flip side of things, my co-angler who was in the back of my boat, asked me, he didn't ask me, but he saw what I was doing. He saw that I was flipping and pitching, and he ended up picking up a swim bait. And he started casting a swim bait. And during that time, the koi angler bass limit was actually it was 5, I believe. And he ended up catching 3 fish to my 1 fish behind me, including like a 3.5, 4 pounder, all on that swim bait. And again, lesson learned. I went and I attacked the exact same area, doing the exact same thing. Even though I went the exact same way, if I would have maybe been throwing a different bait, like a chatterbait, like a swim bait, like he did, I may have been able to pick up those fish that he caught. And so it's just one of those things. It is so important when you go to attack the same area, whether it is a tournament or whether it is just for fun, try to switch something up a little bit. Go out, go a little bit different angle, throw a little bit different bait, present the bass that are there with something that is different. We talked about that in a video not too long ago. So anyways, I ended up leaving there with 1 fish. And I'm like, you know, great. You know, and 1 fish, I went through the lock, and I ended up going really quickly to that area that I caught the 7 pounder. And again, I fished the exact same 40, 50 yard stretch with the exact same bait. Didn't catch a bass. Did not catch a bass. Now, my co-angler didn't catch a bass in that situation either. But I didn't catch anything in there. Again, I was trying to duplicate and do the exact same thing that I'd done the day before. And I will tell you that after fishing tournaments my entire life, that almost never works. Like, unless the bass are truly coming to you, it is very rare for it to happen like that. Now, if they're coming to you, it can be awesome. I have another tournament that I'll tell you about that was great, and it happened just like that. But a lot of times it is best to change things up. So I ended up leaving Cypress Lake, went down to Kissimmee Lake, and in the same manner, I started flipping and pitching the same matted vegetation. Now, the one thing that changed, I went through the exact same area that I had those 2 bites in the day before, and I didn't get a single bite. Again, I didn't have a single bite. And so the thing is I'm like, this is a relatively big area, and I made one good decision, which ended up being a heartbreak. But I made one good decision. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to expand on this area a little bit. So instead of going and just continuing to fish the same stuff I did the day before, I started to expand simply to other areas in this general zone where I was doing the exact same thing. I was still flipping and pitching matted vegetation, but I was just experimenting and going to different areas. And I tell you what, I will never forget this bass for the rest of my life. But I came up on this mat, and it was a thick mat, and it took me like 2 pitches to get the bait to break through the mat. And I'm telling you what, dude, when it went through the mat, the fish must have been sitting this far below the mat, because as soon as it went through the mat, the whole mat went like it imploded, and I felt the fish taking off with my bait. And I'm telling you what, I wrecked this fish way too hard on the hook set. Like I mean, just popped this thing so hard. The only good thing is that because he was running away so fast, my line was tight. So it was a tight line hook set, but I probably set it way too hard. And I got this fish pinned up to the bottom of the mat. And I'm telling you, as I'm trying to get to the mat, he's pulling me down. Like, this is one of the bigger fish that I never saw, but I just felt like it was a giant. I felt like it was, in my opinion, I felt like it was over 7 or 8 pounds. Like, I feel like it was bigger than anything that I had caught during that particular tournament. And I got really close to that thing. And like, I'm doing everything I can to get my trolling motor up into the mat. And I finally get up to it, and I realize as I'm getting closer, the mat's not moving anymore. And I'm not feeling that fish dig anymore. And sure enough, I got up to it. The hook had pulled free. Fish was gone. And I was wrecked. So anyways, this whole experience brought me to basically the last hour and a half of the second day. And I still had 1 fish. And so I ended up running into Lake Cypress, and I did what I should have done earlier in the day. I started to expand on different areas in there, and I ended up catching 3 more keepers, not big keepers, but 3 more keepers, and that was my day. I ended up going back to weigh in with 4 fish, and I ended up getting 52nd in that particular tournament. Again, they paid the top 40. And I don't know for a fact, but I was barely out of the check range. If I had landed that one giant fish, man, who knows? I'm not saying I would have got in the top 12. I definitely would have probably cut a check though. But one of the biggest things that I learned in that tournament was the hook set on the big weight in expanding areas and not throwing the exact same baits in the exact same way every freaking single time. So anyways, guys, that ended up being the tournament. No check. I spent about $3,000 to fish that tournament and left with nothing. So anyways, I hope that you learned from that in the same way that I learned from that, because those are memories that I will never forget. I mean, it's been over, what is it? It's 2025. So it's been 10 years. I remember those 2 days like I remember almost everything about them. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you like this style of really storytelling tip style video. And if you do, then, well, I'll see you back here tomorrow for more. All right, guys. See you. Don't forget to check out that fin gear.